Hello, awakened soul. If you found your way to this video, it wasn't by chance. There's something within you that has always known you were different, something that whispers in your ears that you carry a heritage much deeper than you imagine. Perhaps you're one of those people who since childhood could sense presences that others couldn't perceive, who had dreams so vivid they seemed like memories from past lives, or who always felt magnetically drawn to crystals, medicinal plants, and ancient wisdom without ever being taught about them. If you constantly wonder why you possess this heightened sensitivity to the spiritual world, why you can feel people's and environments' energies so intensely, or why you feel like a fish out of water amid the rampant materialism of the modern world, then you need to hear what I have to reveal today. Your chosen soul is about to discover the truth about your spiritual origin. I know exactly how you feel, because this sensation of not completely belonging to this world, of carrying something greater within yourself, isn't a flaw or eccentricity of yours. It's a sacred sign. For years, you may have been labeled as strange, too sensitive, or different, and perhaps you've even learned to suppress these natural gifts to fit into society. But today, I want you to know that this difference that has bothered you so much is actually the mark of a powerful ancestral lineage that runs through your veins. You're not alone on this journey. There are thousands of souls like you around the world, all carrying the same signs, all questioning the same mysterious origin of their gifts. Today, we'll uncover together the secrets that your ancestors left encoded in your essence, revealing why you were chosen to carry these sacred abilities in this incarnation. If this content resonates deeply with your soul, leave a comment telling which sign caught your attention most, and share this video with someone who also needs to discover their true spiritual origin. Let's begin by diving into the deepest truth about your spiritual nature. You're not just an ordinary person who developed an interest in mystical subjects. You're a bearer of a sacred ancestral heritage that was carefully preserved through generations to reach you at this exact moment in human history. Your spiritual gifts aren't coincidences or whims of destiny. They're spiritual genetic codes transmitted by shamans, healers, priestesses, seers, and guardians of ancient wisdom who were part of your family lineage. Every strange sensation you experience, every intuition that manifests, every prophetic dream you receive is a direct message from your spiritual ancestors trying to awaken in you the memory of who you really are. They chose you as the reconnection link between ancient and modern worlds, as the bridge that will bring back to humanity the wisdom that was almost lost over the centuries. Your soul was specially prepared even before birth to carry this sacred responsibility. Think about your childhood for a moment. Do you remember how even as a very small child, you already demonstrated a differentiated sensitivity to the world around you? Perhaps you were that child who talked to imaginary friends, who seemed more real than actual physical people, or who was afraid of certain environments without being able to explain why, sensing presences that no one else perceived. You might have been the child who cried inexplicably in certain places, who had vivid nightmares about times you didn't know, or who demonstrated knowledge about plants, stones, or rituals without ever being taught. These weren't strange or problematic behaviors. They were the first signs that your ancestral gifts were beginning to awaken. Your spiritual ancestors were trying to communicate with you from early on, preparing your consciousness to receive and develop the abilities they had preserved, especially for this moment of human evolution. Every strange experience of your childhood was actually an early initiation into the spiritual world. During your adolescence, these signs probably intensified in ways you may not have understood at the time. You may have started having extremely vivid dreams with people wearing clothes from other eras, who spoke languages you didn't know but could somehow understand. Perhaps you began feeling an inexplicable attraction to certain ancient cultures: Egyptian, Celtic, Native American, African, Oriental, without being able to explain where this fascination came from. You might have found yourself naturally drawn to crystals, incense, medicinal herbs, or practices like meditation and yoga, even without being introduced to these elements by anyone. It was as if an inner force guided you to these knowledges, as if you were being magnetically pulled to reconnect with wisdom that already existed within you. Your ancestors were intensifying the signs, preparing you for the complete awakening that would happen in your adult life. Every esoteric interest that arose was actually an ancestral memory being activated in your consciousness. In adult life, these ancestral gifts began manifesting even more evidently and powerfully. You probably became that person to whom others naturally turn when they need advice, emotional healing, or simply someone who understands them deeply. People sense your differentiated energy and are drawn to your presence, even without being able to explain exactly why. You may have developed an almost supernatural ability to perceive others' emotions, to sense when someone is lying, or to foresee events before they happen. Perhaps you began having more intense experiences with the spiritual world, visits from deceased loved ones, perception of presences in environments, dreams that prove prophetic, or even experiences of communication with spirit guides. All these phenomena aren't signs of mental imbalance or excessive imagination. They're direct manifestations of ancestral gifts that finally found a mature and prepared channel to express themselves fully through you. The first most common ancestral sign is the natural ability to sense spiritual presences and subtle energies that others cannot perceive. If you're a person who enters an environment and immediately feels whether the energy is heavy or light, if you can perceive when someone deceased has been in a certain place, or if you feel chills and temperature changes without apparent cause, this indicates that you carry in your lineage ancestors who worked as mediums, shamans, or intermediaries between the physical and spiritual world. This ability was fundamental in ancient societies, where healers and spiritual leaders needed to navigate between different dimensions to bring healing, guidance, and protection to their communities. Your ancestors developed this sensitivity over generations, refining it until it became a transmissible spiritual genetic characteristic. When you sense these presences or energies, you're literally activating the same perception centers that your ancestors used in their sacred work. It's as if you inherited a sixth sense that was carefully cultivated and preserved through generations. The second revealing sign is prophetic dreams and visits from ancestors during sleep. If you frequently have extremely vivid dreams where you receive messages, guidance, or visions of future events, or if you've had experiences of dreaming with deceased people who transmitted important information to you, this indicates an ancestral lineage of seers, oracles, or prophets. In ancient traditions, the dream world was considered a sacred portal where the living could communicate directly with ancestors and receive divine guidance. Your spiritual ancestors developed the ability to consciously access this portal and transmitted this capacity to you through spiritual DNA. When you have these special dreams, you're literally participating in a millennial tradition of ancestral communication. Your dreams aren't just products of your subconscious mind. They're real encounters with your ancestors' wisdom, who continue guiding and orienting you even after having left the physical plane. Every prophetic dream is a confirmation that you're chosen to keep alive this bridge of communication between worlds. The third sign is the magnetic attraction to ancient objects, sacred places, and specific ancestral cultures. If you feel an inexplicable connection to certain historical periods, if you get deeply emotional when visiting archaeological sites, ancient temples or museums, or if you feel a strange familiarity with objects from cultures that theoretically aren't part of your known family heritage, this reveals that you carry active ancestral memories in your soul. This attraction isn't just intellectual interest, it's cellular recognition. Your spiritual ancestors are literally awakening within you when you come into contact with elements from their original traditions. That's why certain music, symbols, places, or practices can provoke inexplicable emotions in you, spontaneous tears, or sensations of longing for something you never consciously lived. Your ancestors are using these triggers to awaken the spiritual memories that were encoded in your essence, helping you recognize and reconnect with your true spiritual heritage. The fourth ancestral sign is the instinctive ability to work with medicinal plants, crystals, and elements of nature. If you've always known intuitively which herbs to use for certain health problems, if you feel a special connection with crystals and stones, or if you have natural facility for cultivating plants and working with nature's elements, this indicates a lineage of healers, herbalists, or earth shamans. Your ancestors were the guardians of knowledge about nature's healing properties, and they transmitted this wisdom to you through spiritual genetic codes. When you instinctively know that a certain plant can help with anxiety, or when you feel you need a specific crystal without knowing exactly why, you're accessing an ancestral library of knowledge that was preserved in your soul. This isn't information you learn from books. It's wisdom that your ancestors accumulated through generations of direct work with nature's spirits. Every time you work with these elements, you're honoring and continuing a sacred tradition that may have thousands of years of history in your family lineage. The fifth sign is the natural facility to enter deep meditative states and access expanded levels of consciousness. If you can meditate easily, if you enter trance during spiritual practices, or if you have experiences of consciousness expansion even without using specific techniques, this reveals that you carry the heritage of mystics, monks, priests, or practitioners of contemplative traditions. Your ancestors developed over generations the capacity to transcend the limits of ordinary consciousness, to access superior dimensions of knowledge and wisdom. They transmitted to you not just the technique, but the very neurological and energetic structure necessary for these expanded states. When you meditate or enter altered states of consciousness, you're literally activating the same spiritual circuits that your ancestors used to receive revelations, channel healing, and connect with the divine. Your facility for these states isn't personal talent, it's ancestral heritage. You were prepared since before birth to be a channel between dimensions, continuing the sacred work that your ancestors performed in their respective eras. The sixth ancestral sign is the acute perception of others' emotions and the natural capacity to offer emotional healing. If you can feel what others are feeling as if they were your own emotions, if people naturally open up to you and seek your advice, or if you have a special ability to calm and heal emotional wounds, this indicates a lineage of emotional healers, ancestral therapists, or guardians of heart wisdom. Your ancestors developed this empathic sensitivity as a healing tool, learning to navigate the human emotional world to bring relief, understanding, and transformation. They transmitted this capacity to you as a sacred gift, preparing you to be an emotional healer in this time when humanity most needs healing for its psychological and spiritual wounds. When you offer comfort to someone or manage to help a person process their emotions, you're directly channeling your ancestors' healing wisdom. Your empathy isn't a weakness or burden, it's a powerful spiritual tool that was refined through generations to reach you. The seventh sign is déjà vu experiences in historical locations and the sensation of familiarity with past eras. If you visited ancient places and felt as if you'd been there before, if you have spontaneous memories of times you didn't live, or if you feel inexplicable nostalgia for specific historical periods, this reveals that you carry active ancestral memories in your consciousness. These aren't fantasies or imagination, they're real memories of lives that your spiritual ancestors lived and that were preserved in your soul as part of your heritage. Your ancestors chose to transmit these memories to you because they contain important information about spiritual practices, lost wisdom, or missions that need to be continued in this incarnation. When you experience these déjà vus or spontaneous memories, you're literally accessing the Akashic records of your family lineage, connecting with experiences and knowledge that your ancestors considered important enough to preserve through time. Each ancestral memory that arises is a gift, a clue about your true spiritual identity and purpose in this life. The eighth ancestral sign is the natural tendency for energy healing practices and work with subtle energy. If you instinctively place your hands on injured people or animals, if you feel energy flowing through your hands during healing moments, or if you have spontaneous experiences of channeling healing energy, this indicates a powerful lineage of energy healers, shamans, or practitioners of ancestral healing arts. Your ancestors developed the capacity to work directly with universal life energy, learning to channel, direct, and transmit this healing force to bring relief and restoration. They transmitted to you not just technical knowledge, but the very energetic structure necessary to perform these works. When you feel energy flowing through your hands, or when you manage to relieve someone's pain through touch, you're activating energetic channels that were opened and developed by your ancestors over many generations. Your healing capacity isn't casual talent, it's a sacred responsibility that was carefully prepared and transmitted to you as part of your mission in this incarnation. Now, it's important to understand that different ancestral lineages manifest specific gifts according to their original traditions. If you feel a deep connection with Native American shamanic traditions, your gifts may manifest through special communication with animals, plants, and nature spirits, plus abilities to work with elements like fire, water, earth, and air. If your soul resonates with Celtic wisdom, you may have gifts related to natural magic, work with fairies and elementals, plus a special connection with lunar and seasonal cycles. Those who carry African tradition heritage may manifest gifts of communication with ancestors, work with drums and sacred rhythms, plus abilities to channel protective spiritual entities. If you're attracted to Oriental traditions, your gifts may include facility for working with Qi energy, meridians, plus natural abilities for internal martial arts and longevity practices. Recognizing which tradition resonates most deeply with your essence is fundamental to understanding the specific nature of your ancestral gifts and how to develop them adequately. The first step to fully embrace your ancestral gifts is to recognize and honor these abilities as sacred inheritances, not as burdens or eccentricities that need to be hidden. For a long time, you may have tried to suppress or minimize these capacities to fit into the expectations of a society that lost connection with the spiritual world. But the time has come to reverse this dynamic and understand that your gifts aren't something to be ashamed of. They're precious presents that your ancestors carefully preserved through generations to reach you. Begin by creating a sacred space in your home, a simple altar where you can honor your spiritual ancestors. Place photographs of deceased family members, objects that represent the traditions that most resonate with you, crystals, incense, and elements of nature. This space will become a portal of communication with your ancestral lineage, a place where you can meditate, make offerings, and receive guidance. Dedicate a few daily minutes to connect with this altar, thanking your ancestors for the transmitted gifts and asking for guidance on how to develop them adequately. This simple but powerful practice will begin to strengthen your ancestral connection and activate even more of your latent gifts. The journey of ancestral reconnection also involves conscious research about your genealogical tree and the spiritual traditions that may have existed in your family. Talk with older relatives about family stories, especially those that may have been considered strange or different. Look for clues about ancestors who were known for their special abilities. That great-grandmother who knew things before they happened, the great-great-grandfather who healed with herbs, the aunt who talked to the dead, or the grandfather who had prophetic dreams. Often, these stories were minimized or hidden over generations, but they contain valuable information about the origin of your gifts. Also, research the geographical regions your family came from, investigating which spiritual traditions were practiced in those areas. If you discover connections with certain cultures or traditions, dedicate time to study these practices, not just intellectually, but experimenting with rituals, meditations, and techniques that resonate with your soul. Remember that you're not learning something new. You're recalling wisdom that already exists encoded in your ancestral essence. The safe and responsible development of your ancestral gifts requires patience, discernment, and adequate guidance. Start with simple practices and gradually expand your abilities as you feel more confident and prepared. If you have gifts of energetic perception, practice spiritual protection before exposing yourself to environments or people with heavy energies. Learn energy cleansing techniques like herbal baths, smudging, and white light visualizations. If your gifts involve spiritual communication, establish clear boundaries about when and how you're available for these communications, avoiding them becoming invasive or disturbing. Seek mentors or communities that understand and support your spiritual awakening. This can include esoteric study groups, meditation circles, workshops on ancestral traditions, or even therapists specialized in spirituality. Having support from people who understand your journey is fundamental for you to feel validated and guided during this awakening process. Remember that you don't need to walk this path alone. There are many other chosen souls going through the same journey of ancestral reconnection. It's natural that during this awakening process, you encounter resistances, both internal and external. Internally, you may face fears about going crazy, doubts about the reality of your experiences, or concerns about how others will react to your changes. Externally, you may encounter skepticism, judgments, or even opposition from close people who don't understand your spiritual journey. Transform these obstacles into opportunities for growth and strengthening. When fear arises, remember that your ancestors faced much greater challenges to preserve these gifts for you. Your courage is an ancestral inheritance. When you encounter skepticism, use it as an opportunity to strengthen your own faith and discernment, learning to trust your experiences regardless of external validation. When facing opposition, practice compassion, understanding that those who resist may be doing so out of fear or lack of understanding. Stay firm in your truth, but be gentle with those who aren't yet ready to understand. Remember that part of your mission as chosen is to help elevate collective consciousness, and this sometimes requires patience with those who are at different stages of spiritual awakening. The most important call I make to you now is to consciously begin a journey of reconnection with your ancestral gifts, allowing yourself to explore and develop your intuitive abilities without fear or shame. Start today by creating daily moments of silence and introspection where you can listen to your intuition's voice and feel your ancestors' presence. Practice gratitude for these gifts, even if you don't yet understand them completely. Allow yourself to experiment with spiritual practices that resonate with your soul, whether meditation, crystal work, herbalism, or any other modality that awakens your ancestral curiosity. Most importantly, recognize yourself as a fundamental link in the chain of wisdom that connects past, present, and future. You're not just an ordinary person who developed interest in spirituality. You're a guardian of ancestral traditions, a bridge between worlds, chosen to bring back to humanity wisdom that was almost lost. Accept this responsibility with pride and humility, knowing that your ancestors trusted you to continue the sacred work they began generations ago. We've reached the end of this revelation journey, but actually, this is just the beginning of your true walk as a chosen soul who finally understood her origin and spiritual purpose. Everything I've shared with you today isn't theories or speculations. They're ancestral truths that were waiting for the right moment to be revealed to your consciousness. Your spiritual gifts, your differentiated sensitivity, your attraction to ancient wisdom, and your natural capacity for healing and guidance aren't coincidences or random characteristics. They're the direct manifestation of a sacred ancestral heritage that was carefully preserved through generations to reach you at this crucial moment of human evolution. You now know that every strange experience of your life, every moment you felt different or displaced, every powerful intuition you received, were signs that your spiritual ancestors were trying to awaken in you the memory of your true identity. The journey of reconnection with your ancestral gifts that begins now will be the most important of your life, because through it, you'll not only discover your true potential, but also fulfill the sacred mission for which you were chosen. Always remember that you're not an ordinary person who casually developed spiritual abilities. You're chosen, a bearer of ancestral light, a guardian of millennial wisdom that was entrusted to your soul to be preserved and shared in this time of great planetary transformation. Your spiritual ancestors, shamans, healers, priestesses, seers, and guardians of sacred traditions lived, fought, and preserved their knowledge specifically so you could be here today, carrying these abilities and fulfilling the greater purpose of elevating humanity's consciousness. Every time you honor your gifts, every time you use them to help and heal others, every time you connect with your ancestral roots, you're not only honoring your own essence, but also honoring all those who came before you and who trusted your soul to continue the sacred work. You're a precious link in the golden chain of wisdom that connects the ancestral past to humanity's future, and your light is essential for the world's healing and transformation. Now I need your active participation to strengthen our community of awakened and chosen souls. Leave a comment below telling which of the ancestral signs most resonated with your personal experience. Was it the ability to sense spiritual presences, prophetic dreams, attraction to ancient cultures, or perhaps the natural ability for energy healing? Share your story so other people can recognize themselves and feel less alone in their awakening journeys. Share this video with someone you know who also carries these ancestral signs. It could be that friend who was always different, the family member who has special abilities, or anyone who needs to discover their true spiritual origin. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to not miss the next content about developing ancestral gifts, spiritual reconnection techniques, and guidance for chosen souls like you. If you feel you're ready to dive even deeper into this journey of ancestral awakening, consider becoming a member of our special community where I share exclusive content, advanced practices, and personalized guidance for developing your sacred gifts. Together, we're creating a network of light formed by chosen souls who recognize each other, support each other, and work united to bring back to Earth the ancestral wisdom the world so desperately needs. Until our next meeting, may your ancestors continue guiding your steps, and may your light shine ever brighter, illuminating the path for other souls who are still awakening to their true spiritual nature.